I'm Holger Assenmache, founder of AppCentral. That describes me not really well. I'm probably the most inappropriate person in the room. If we have a lot of lawyers around here, so if you want to sue them, I can forward you to them directly. I get commission from that. Did I? No. I didn't say that. No. Is there anybody from an HR department around? All right. So, why am I trying to talk to you? Well, I'm one of his products. I'm actually German. Probably you can hear that a little bit. I'm not wearing anything like this. I was famous for wearing a black leather coat all the time, but this is actually the first time I'm in the US without this thing. Not to please him, but also not to please the HR department, but just, I forgot. So, what happened? What happened back then? I think that's pretty much what I experienced is pretty much the case for probably half of the crowd. So, half of you probably have an existing business somewhere back there on this other continent and want to get a foothold here in the valley. That's one case. The other case are these naive types that try to start here right away. I'm one of the latter. So back then, many years back there, I started a few companies in Germany. Yes, this is possible. Build them, grow them, sell them. This model even works there. Then I retired. Well, I was not very successful at that. In 2006, obviously, otherwise I would not be standing here. I retired then, Western Australia, got some strange ideas, found out that nobody else had these strange ideas before. Surprise! I'm a greedy person, so I write up a patent, of course. And then the next step is, oh, where do I do that? Of course, Germany, I'm familiar with that thing and can talk about probably anybody into anything over there. Here I can't, I don't even speak the language, so what do? So valley is probably the right point to start. There is the money that you can get in order to facilitate growth right from the start. That's why I need it for. Organic growth for some cases is not probably the best idea you want to go with. It's a very German thought, of course, but you will not, at least not here. So you need to get someone to actually be that stupid and invest in your idea. To get that, it's not enough to come here and then whatever, book a hotel room and that's it. You probably have to be a little bit more sophisticated and get this catch-22 resolved. What's the catch-22? You need money. Well, who doesn't? That's one of the drivers of the whole thing, but I mean for the company. You need this money. In order to get the money, you need some sort of network. Where do you need the network? You need it here. In order to get it here, you have to be rooted. How do you get rooted? Because catch-22. So how do you do that? Typically, either something that he does, for instance with GSVA, that's the perfect way to get started for that. Incubators, all this kind of stuff. At that time, because he was just too slow, GSVA didn't exist. So I phoned up a few guys. One of them actually was, again, stupid enough to listen to me. I'm retired, he knew. He was a common friend of us. We didn't know each other at that time. So, well, he said, you know what? There is this guy over there. He's German. Not that there's a particular qualification, but probably I can talk to him. Point one. Point two, he has to do some sort of flying license renewal. Here in the US, you will meet him here, because nobody will let him fly in Germany with those kind of big jets. That's him. So we met in Capitola. Of course in Capitola. The valley would be businesslike, and we drank some glasses of wine. That was great. He started financing right away because he paid the bill. So we met there, we thought, well, that's my idea, here's my elevator pitch, I want to do this and that. Are you in? He said, well, let's try to find some other stupid guys. So what chances do I have? I could go to a bank, who were very funny. Here in this area, nobody would even remotely think of something like this, or securities, or this kind of thing. Well, then you could try to get an invitation to Bucks at Woodside. Alternative number 2. Well, as soon as you see the cars lined up over there, you probably think, well, I have to get a better rental car company. So that also was not working. Or you can take an apartment somewhere in Menlo Park, do this kind of jogging and just accidentally Sand Hill Road up and down all the time, and you try to walk in somewhere to just get a sip of water, because that's much easier than actually handing in a business plan. I tried that. Somehow, probably the language barrier, that didn't work out well either. Next possibility is know some VC. Okay, if you have a VC in, and he is actually that stupid, then it means you have someone on the board whose primary interest is money. Great, that's aligned with me, but unfortunately, he's about, in the first phase, he's about getting the money later. So, in the beginning, you get the money aspect, you don't get the network aspect, and you need it. You need someone who actually gets you into contact with someone else who doesn't have that accent. What does that mean? Hey, you're Korean. All right, so we started that way. So he said, well, we need to get some angels. Angels. Oh, white wings and such. Well, I learned it's not probably about the white wings. These people typically have white hair. So he introduced me to some. That was great. We got one who is awesome. He is not here today because he has to deal with a lawsuit in Texas. Great. So he had to fly out yesterday. Well, anyway, so in the meantime, he became a friend too, which is strange. But anyway, this angel came in. He brought in other angels. Angels always come in groups. I learned that from the Bible, and it seems to be that in real life that's somewhat similar. Because if one sniffs money, then the lemmings come. So they did. Worked pretty great. So what do you do then formally? You need lawyers, of course. Unfortunately, there is no money for lawyers at that time. And there is one thing that's called trust. So what did we do? We set up a term sheet. At that time, it was the wake of the mobile age, 2007. Nobody has this wooden data carrier called paper with him. We didn't have pencil or anything. We met at something called Le Boulanger. But he has his flight log, because he just had this strange thingy called an examination, or really whatever you have to term for that he actually landed back and everybody was unharmed. So we had this flight log. We put in everything of the term sheet on this flight log. We didn't have a copier, so we photographed this thing. This was essentially the term sheet for the company and is still sort of in existence. Okay, if the company had not been acquired, it probably would be legally still in existence. If that turned up during due diligence, the other company, the acquirer, would probably be quite annoyed. So I'm telling you now a secret. That's an oxymoron, right? Probably. Anyway, so it's about trust. You look at those people opposite of you and you trust them or you don't. If you trust them, you don't need the lawyers. If you don't trust them, there's no point to get started. Nothing against lawyers, far from it. Love the guys, but it's just, in the beginning, it's better to just do that. That's one thing I learned. The other one is, I don't have any clue about this market here, about how things are getting done. And of course, these more mature guys with the white wings, they know that. So what do they do first? They try to dig someone up who actually knows. That's him. So the angel came up and said, you know what? What would I like my name? I know. Not even paper. You know what? We get you into contact with this guy. He is really great and he can ground you. By grounding, probably something like contradict you was meant. So he did this all the time. That's great. So we became friends, I have no idea why. We shared the same apartment in the beginning. So the company started by doing, yes, I'm not gay, started by having a desk in his living room, the typical story. He didn't have any garage. So sometimes it rains here, so you can't start like this. Actually, it came from IKEA, and so we started this little thing. We got our first employee. He also started this little thing, and then we got basically started, and we became profitable almost in the first year already. That's a very German thought, because there's a lot of risk. As a German, yes, I'm racist, obviously, when I'm emphasizing this all the time, I perfectly know what will go wrong. And typically, I'm right. So, what do you do? What do you then do? Well, you ask someone who is capable of convincing you to ignore the fact that, yes, it will happen. This will go wrong. Never mind. Here we do it that way. It's not perfect. Well, it works like 80-20. For software it means 80-20 means, well, it doesn't work. Never mind, we can sell that. There is this small event soon coming up called the Super Bowl. Oh, never heard of that. What's that? Oh, it's like the Fußball-Weltmeisterschaft, something like this. And we will just produce something for them. So it has to work out of the box for millions of people, yes. 80-20, yes. I don't want to know. So we started like this. Then 2 years in, 2 years is a long time for a startup anyway. 2 years in, we found out, well, we have to focus. We are chasing cars. We try to stay profitable. That's not the point in getting venture capital in. You want to have an awesome product that scales. You want to have the upside potential. You want to retire again, which reminded me of probably a stupid decision anyway. So we completely flipped the whole thing. You want to tell them?
Yeah, you want me to switch?
Anyway, so we did this complete turnaround. That's his part. He saved my neck more than once. Bottom line, get someone who knows locally what's going on. Best and by far cheapest, make him your friend. Works great. Great. Gets you through a lot of life thingies. Thanks, by the way, this time. So that really was great. No, it is actually. He tricked me again, because after acquisition he has a change in control clause. So he went away like... And I have golden handcuffs with me, so I'm still with the acquirer. That tells you something about the distribution of intellect, all these kind of things. All right. So I start historically, and then it's your turn.
All right.
His alma mater is Berkeley. We started at Berkeley. We fished for talents. It worked out great.
All right. There we go. I'm not sure if I know how to follow that, because that was like performance art, so I'm not really sure if I can figure out how to do it. It's kind of funny, because we would walk into a meeting, into a VC office, right? You've got Holger, who looks like that, and me, who looks like this, and he's the one with the accent. So it was always hilarious walking in, people like, what's that all about? So my name is Ken Singer, and I am I was a co-founder of AppCentral. Originally it was called Ondigo. As you Germans know, Germans love to make up words that kind of sound like the original word. So the original company was called Ondigo because on the go was taken as a URL. So that's kind of the origin. And actually Dirk came up with that. That was a Dirkism. Yeah. It was an interesting story that we would be able to tell about the name, and when we switched into becoming an enterprise play, we had to grow up and come up with something a little more valuable, so we changed to AppCentral a couple of years later. I'm not sure how to start my end of the story, but probably I'll start where I come in, and maybe do a little edits to that. I reserve the right to edit over. It's more like a Wikipedia page, right? We'll do that. Okay. So
Try.
Yeah, I'll try. Yeah. I'm going to do the American spin on it. So I was asked to kind of give a background on how I became an entrepreneur as well. So I'm going to kind of start out. I'm actually an immigrant. I came to the U.S. when I was 5. and I grew up outside of Seattle. And I came to Berkeley as just wanting to study something and probably become a professor, which actually I kind of went back to the university later. But I kind of fell into it. My dad was an entrepreneur himself, and I think just naturally I gravitated towards that. And my first company, it was back in '99. You guys probably remember the bubble. Started a company right in the bubble in mobility, and we had a pretty good ride there for a couple of years, and then everything died, as you guys know. So I went back to school, finished up, and then tried a couple of other startups, helped other people do things. And in that first startup that I did when I was in college, I was fishing for angel money everywhere. And I came to my last opportunity. It was this German guy who turns out was in the country because he summers in California, but apparently that week, or those 2 weeks, that we were running out of money, he was in Florida because that's where he liked to be. This was Peter Weber. And so I got on a plane because we were running out of money, flew down to Florida, and met with Peter. I got to the wrong airport. Apparently where his house was that he rented was 5 hours from the airport that I arrived in. So the only car that they had was this huge truck. So at 2 in the morning, I'm driving with old people on the right lane and young people on the left lane going 100 miles and 40 miles an hour at 2 in the morning trying to go get money. And I'm falling asleep at the wheel trying to get down to this place. I don't sleep. I go and meet Peter, and Peter's like, I love what you guys are doing. I really want to support you guys. I'm definitely in, probably 200K. I think that'll be enough for what you guys need. This was when people were just writing checks in meetings, right? I mean, just if you remember that time. And so I'm thrilled. I'm driving back to the airport, 5 hours, and then fly back home. The market tanks 2 days later. Like the stock market just drops, and I'm thinking the market is gone. So Peter comes back to California, and I meet with him, and I said, look, the company's going to fall apart because there's no market. All 3 of our contracts with the big companies are gone. They have decided to leave the country, and so there was a big collapse. Actually, no, this was 9/11. It happened 2 days after I met with Peter. So everything had collapsed. And I met with him one last time. He's like, no, I really want to keep you guys alive. I really want to help you make it through this. I said, all of our customers are gone. It's going to be 2 years of just keeping us alive. He's like, no, I really believe in you guys. I really want to help develop you. And this is when I learned one of the first lessons is that an angel isn't someone who gives you money. It's someone who gives you support. And sometimes it comes in the form of money, but oftentimes it comes in the form of just pushing you, right? And this is someone who stayed with me for over a decade now. And 6 years later, after I told him, look, save your money, there's no way the company's going to survive. I really appreciate the sentiment. And so I went back to school, stayed in touch with Peter every couple of years, and then I got a call from him about 6 years ago. And he said, look, hey, Ken, I invested some money, maybe prematurely. I didn't tell you this. Maybe a little prematurely in this guy who's really brilliant, but is very German. That's and I would like for you to come look at this investment, take a look at the technology, and let me know what you think and what you would do with it. Like, what do you think? And I thought, look, I owe you a favor because you kept our spirits alive and really wanted to support us. So I sat down with Holger at Starbucks, what was it, Redwood City or something? Remember the first time?
Yeah, Redwood City.
Yeah, and we went through his technology. It was in mobile. It was my background. I was really impressed with his technology. Took me a while to get through some of your German jokes at the beginning, as all of you have experienced now. It's a wonder, right? And so I spent time getting to know this, and then this is a really pretty cool thing. So I put together a presentation, 6 slides, right? This is great, this huge market, I think this is where you should go, this is your go-to-market. As a favor, I'm like, Peter, this is what I think of this. And there's silence, and he goes, do you want the job? And I go, what? And then my brain clicked over, and I realized I was in a job interview to figure out whether I would be right for the co-founder of this company. And then realized that I couldn't say no, because for the first 15 minutes I was pitching to him how wonderful this investment was. And if I would say, no, I don't want this, I look like a douchebag. So I said yes, and the rest is history, because Holger and I became really close friends, very, very close friends. And I don't have very many of those, and Holger is one of them. We are very different, as you guys can tell. And I think that is why it worked, because we kept each other in check. I don't think I've ever met someone more technically brilliant, sometimes inarticulate let's say inartful. That's a better word. Inartful with some of his words, but that's where I could step in. And I think when you have two very different minds come together and they agree on some very basic principles about how you treat each other, how you treat employees. We didn't lose a single employee until we got our first round of VC money. And a couple months in, we ended up losing a few people. But all the way up to that point, we kept every single person. And even though we paid them very little money, they stuck around. So that's something about culture that we developed together. And we allowed for very strong disagreements that were epic. I would say, Israeli style, if you guys know Israelis in conflict. But we ended up getting through all of that and developing something that the market really wanted. And I think that's a testament to just sheer will and people like Peter and Dirk. I mean, Dirk was one of our biggest supporters. And I got to tell you, when it comes to angels, right, you need those folks to come and support you, not just with money, but some perspective, that you're not the first person to run out of money, right? But you better not be the last one, because, this has to work. And I have a lot of gratitude that for both Peter and Dirk to take us through this. And they're crazy enough to bring me back and mentor some of these German companies. I think I've kind of cracked the nut on what it is that is the Germanness that makes German technology great, and how to make it work in the U.S. There's just enough of this cultural understanding that is necessary for anything to work, and I think this GSVA is a perfect environment for that to happen. So that's my story.